Yeah, so welcome back to the Wedding Capture Co podcast. Here we are now with episode 18, a podcast for wedding photographers and videographers, hosted by myself, Tom, and the guy across the desk from me, Chris.
Hello.
So in this episode, now we are getting into what we would call booking season of the year. We offer some kind of tips and tricks and our opinions on how that you can market your business and find ways to be seen. It's a huge episode. We dive into Google, websites, branding, colours, brush social media because we barely had time at the end, and there's a whole load we don't get to, but hopefully there's loads in there that will give you loads of inspiration and motivation to start marketing for that busy booking time.
Enjoy.
So guys, let's jump in. So we are still in Chris's office. Is this your office?
This is my office.
Does it have like a cool name or anything? Like,
no, there's no cool name for it.
Is it not?
But the charging station works by Alexa, so I've just been demonstrating that to you.
Magic, as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, if you didn't catch up with last week's, it's 2 weeks ago's episode.
2 weeks, yeah.
We have decamped from our usual haunts of my dining room to Chris's office because I am having my bathroom redone, rebuilt, and there was builders and noise and horror at my home. And I really hope my bathroom's finished by the time this goes out. Like it had loads of delays. Like bricks fell out of places that bricks weren't supposed to fall out of, and
in like 4 weeks' time, I hope it's finished.
Like water fell out of places that it wasn't supposed to fall out. Everything that could have gone wrong in the renovation of my bathroom has happened.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I really hope that maybe by the time this goes out that I actually have a nice bathroom.
Yeah, I hope you do too. That's a while to wait for.
When's this going to go out?
So next, what is it today? The 7th, 8th of October.
So tomorrow, yeah. So
5th, 6th, 16th.
So it's next week.
23rd,
So
30th. This goes out on the 30th.
So I'll be on holiday when this goes out, so I won't hear it. So yeah, so if you're listening and watching this now, then you can think of me, and I'll be in the Caribbean.
I won't be thinking of you in the Caribbean.
When this goes out, yeah. Just like think of like white sand and like drinking like a cocktail out of a pineapple.
Well, they're sort of staring at their screen, editing a massive backlog. You were there with your pina colada.
I don't even like cocktails, but I feel like when I'm in the Caribbean, I need to drink something out of a coconut or a pineapple in order for that.
When are you going?
I fly on the 23rd.
23rd. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
how long?
2 weeks.
Nice. That's going to be proper chill, isn't it?
I do, but I'm already getting the fear of like how miserable and cold that it's getting. Yeah. But I know that to go somewhere like the Caribbean, which is really hot, when I get back like 2 weeks before Christmas and with one wedding left to shoot, like I'm not going to be loving my life at all when I start playing cold and rainy Gatwick. But
you know what? You're coming back in December, and that is obviously like that's a festive season. So you're going to be like you're coming back to the festive season, like the good bit of winter, right? Like, you know, when me and you, we're going to Florida in like January, right?
So that's the only upside. So I come home and 6 weeks pretty much to the day after I get back.
We come back like the first week of February, which is like the worst time of year. Just it's rainy, it's drab, it's cold, there's nothing going on.
The only thing as well, like February is the worst. I'm sure we can talk about this in like many future episodes.
Yeah.
But like everyone thinks that January's horrible, but it's not. Because like you're full of like enthusiasm for the year and New Year's resolutions this year's going to be it's going to be my year, it's going to be this.
I've hit the gym twice already.
And then you get to February and it's all gone to shit already and then you're hating yourself.
It's back to
it's like you've got your credit card bill from Christmas.
Maybe
and
next year.
You haven't shifted that stone that you put on by eating too many sweets at Christmas and life's terrible, and that's when the weather gets really bad.
See, that's what we're coming back to after going to Florida.
Again, think of me on Lancer with our pineapple. That's mentally where I'm at.
I'll be thinking of you.
Yeah.
And it's well deserved as well. I know you're gonna be smashing out edits to try and get them done before then.
I am. I think I've got at the moment, as it stands, I've got 2 weddings left to shoot before I go away, and one when I get back, and I've got 6 weddings on my pile. So I think if I can get those, at least 5 of those 6 done before I go, in like 2 and a bit weeks.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's a good place to be.
If you listen to our last episode about AI, apparently I can have that done by the end of the week.
Yeah, if you wanted to. If you really set your mind to it.
Smashed it out. That's it.
Everyone's going to be expecting. I'm hoping couples are listening to this. The 6th couple on the list saying half a day times 6. Right, okay.
Export it. I'm exporting it as I land, just doing two weddings on the plane. But talking about those kind of rubbishy, dark, horrible months of the year, I think we touched on it in the last episode as well, is that we are going to be going into what is commonly known as booking season, aren't we?
Yeah.
So I don't think we've done an episode on marketing at all.
No, so we spoke briefly I say briefly, we did an episode at the beginning of this whole thing about how to prepare for the wedding season. We spoke about a lot of things, a lot of ways you can sort of advertise or keep your basically business flowing over the summer. But now we want to talk about how really you can set plans in motion, because realistically when we advertise, you don't see results for it for 12 months or so. So you really need to be starting now. You can't. I'm guilty of this as well. But when I've got like 10 weddings to edit,
Yeah.
which I've got more, but I'll sit down and I'll be like, I'm not touching my website, my marketing, my Instagram until I've done these 10 weddings. And that's a really unhealthy mindset. So
It is.
we're talking about what you should be doing between editing those weddings.
I think that's it. There's always stuff to be done, and there's never a more perfect time to start than now. Like you could argue that this stuff should be done before booking season arrives, so that
of course.
it's there and rolled out, ready. So your shop window is cleaned and got a new display in it, ready to attract all those new customers that come looking.
Yeah, but I'd say January is the most popular. So this episode goes out end of November. You got time to.
Yeah, you are going to get the people that want to be organised and get booked in before that Christmas rush that maybe got engaged at the end of the summer,
true.
and they're looking, and hopefully you've got something up, and that's still doing a good job of, sort of attracting people.
Yeah.
All told, but the chances are, if you're in the situations that I am, and it sounds like you are as well, is that I always feel I want to finish a year, and then go, well, I've edited everything now.
Now let's see what happens.
So I know that I'm not going to update my website now to then go, oh, but there's a wedding in 2 weddings time, which I know I definitely want to use the images from that, and kind of feel like I've waited until I've edited everything before I do one big update of the website. Like a little and often is perfectly okay.
Yeah.
Any changes that you make to your site now is still pushing it it's making it look newer, or you're still showing work which is more current than probably what is on there from when you updated it at the start of
exactly
the start of the year.
The small things and the small tasks really do help, and like you can like I'm sure like we're the same just talking about it, is that you want to be like, right, I'm going to focus this week on my website, but realistically you should be doing that over the course of, if you do half a day a week, by the end of the month you've done a full day of editing on your website, like, and it's it's hard to focus a full day on a website. So doing half that day, and then things like Instagram and things like that, focusing the half day on that and little bits like that. Obviously, all of that builds up. Whereas I'm so guilty of just being like, oh, once all these edits are done, then I'll do some website stuff or whatever. And I think it's another podcast calls it a crock pot. So it takes a while to.
It does, to kind of get up to temperature and get it moving. And I think marketing is like that. I always liken it is to, like, when you start to make a snowman, or you make like a snowball, is that you start with something which is like hand sized, and then the more you roll it in the snow, it gains momentum and it gets bigger and bigger, and then by the time that it's bigger than you, it's rolling and you can't stop it, and it's still getting bigger. And hopefully that is what your marketing should do. But if you stop pushing that ball at any point, it stops moving. So it's not. I'm not saying that you have to, like, say, get a truck and tow it at a million miles an hour. It's just every now and then just keep giving it a nudge. So it is keep rolling on. And
I think in our industry, that's important as well, to do little bits. It's like if you have a goal of doing this, then you can't just be like, I don't know, if you have a goal of charging $3,000, you can't just raise up to $3,000. So if you have a goal of like completely redesigning your website, you can't just sit down one day and I'm going to redesign my website now. You have to do things in little chunks to try and like.
I know, and as well, like when we've talked about it a little bit, I know, but when I did that price increase at the start of last year, which is the biggest one I've ever done, I was already in the throes of building a new website anyway. And when I kind of took that advice or made the decision that I was going to do a big price increase, I kind of felt like I couldn't just go on the website that I had and just change the numbers, because then nothing changed. It's like, what all of a sudden makes that exact same website take me from, say, a £1,700 wedding photographer to a £2,500 one.
It's a psychological thing there.
And it is. And I think and I felt that I needed to kind of, if I'm going to evolve like a Pokemon, do you know what I mean? From the £1,700 wedding photographer to and blossom into this butterfly of a £2,500 wedding photographer, something needed to change. And so the idea of rebuilding the site, that if someone had looked at it one week, when they came back the next week, it had a massive glow up. It was probably most of the same images, but they were surrounded by fancier copy and a better logo, and it flowed better. And that was what would warrant me charging the extra few £100.
Whereas really, like, people would have booked it anyway.
Probably,
Yeah, unless it's really, I don't know, I can't remember what your website looked like before. I know it looks slick now, but...
It's again, similar, and probably a lot of the work that I changed to, probably 80% of it was the same. It was just tidying it up, making sure the flow was better, the copy was better, and all that. It was just a much more slick version, and I think that was probably because Squarespace had issued an update, so that I had marginally more tools at my disposal to make it slicker than I did from when I built it the 18 months previous.
Yeah, fair play. Do you find that, are you one of those, because like me, I'd sort of every year go through and like make another tweak or a redesign, not complete redesign, but like I find after a year I'm quite bored of the website, and I'm like, well, I'll change it up now and make it.
I really do, and I think because we work, and maybe other photographers or other industries don't get this because we send them photos or do whatever. They can go, oh, I can change all the images on my website. For us, almost that's the easiest thing to do because we're constantly making new work.
Yeah.
Where if you're like a cake maker or a hairdresser, you're reliant on that photographers from the weddings you work sending you images which are good enough that you want to market with.
Yeah.
Or you've got to pay out a big chunk of money to get like a styled shoot done to showcase your work. That because you've made that big investment, you then want to share that work. Where with us, it's kind of like, oh, I've got loads of content. So it should be really easy for us to just revamp it all.
Yeah.
But I mean, the longer I leave it, the bigger a task it becomes. And then it's kind of like, okay, well, I need to rip everything down and start again.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the more that I've got to do, the more that I want to do, like, I kind of think, oh, maybe I should do a rebrand. It's like, oh, I've had this logo for 6 months now. I'm not sure I like it anymore. Oh, I'm going to change that.
Yeah.
I probably don't want to because that really changing logos everywhere, like new stationery, new this and that. And I think also a logo is a really small part of what you do. And if that one represented you well, unless you're U-turning your target
business,
audience, the way that you write your name on a website probably doesn't change very much.
I don't think logos really matter for what we do, to be honest. Like, there's a certain extent to which a logo represents your business, of course, but I think a lot of photography businesses and videography businesses just run with text as a logo, and I don't think logos mean that much. Having said that, though, we do have one and I'm not really happy with it, and I've been thinking of changing it for ages, but I messaged Josh about it and he was like, it just looks fun and good, like if you, because I messaged him with like a couple of drafts of some other logos, and he was like, if you go that, you might look a slightly more high end, but you've lost that like element of like a little bit of playfulness to your logo.
I feel like I overthink a logo. I'm a classic overthinker of a logo.
Yeah, same.
Like I used to have like a more blocky font, which I really liked. I thought it was really me. And then when I redid the website and redid like the price increase, I was like, okay, so I want a consistent thing.
Yeah.
So I went through the fonts that were available through like the fonts that I can use for my website. So I was like, I want the same font for my logo as I use for like the headers and stuff on my site.
Do you use Squarespace fonts?
Yeah.
Or do you?
So they use Google fonts built into through Squarespace. So there's a list of like 200 or something that you can use.
Yeah.
So I found a font, was like, yeah, really like that one.
Yeah.
I can use that in Squarespace. It's fine. Made my logo out of it. It was kind of like a bit kind of like block, like dark, blocky, but it was serifed. And I was like, oh, that looks kind of more luxury than the one that I had.
Yeah.
And now I've come through this year with it and most of last year with it. I'm kind of like, I do like it, but I don't know if it. I don't know if I made it to make me look more luxury, and I felt that people that were luxury had these fancy like serif fonts.
Yeah.
But now I'm kind of like,
I like it. I like the font.
I kind of want to go back to the black blocky ones. Maybe that's not me. But then at the same time, I think, well, it's going to take me a lot of time and expense to change it all back. And does anyone really care? Like, hopefully, when they land on my website, they don't look at the image and go, he's trying to be a luxury. That's serif font. And then when they go down, there's maybe largely more fun images. Hopefully, they're much more amazed by the photos that are there than they are spending.
I think this might be a theme is like throughout this is don't overthink it. Like with your logo, how many couples are looking at your stuff thinking that's amazing, but the logo's rubbish, so I'm not going to book it. Like,
I think it's all those things sing together, right, to make a bigger voice. But as a single standalone thing in itself, it's probably not.
To a certain extent, if someone's really creative and they're going onto your website and it's like, oh, I'm not sure about the name of this business, it sounds a bit corporate or something, like then it might put them off thinking, oh, this guy's probably going to be a bit corporate, like, wedding videography Hampshire services. Or, something like that.
I think that's all of it, like the language that you use, or all of those things as a sum of their parts. Like if you went onto someone's website and like they had like a real like Comic Sans style logo on a pink background with yellow writing, if their images were then like black and white, dark and moody, really emotive, the branding wouldn't tie up to the work that you're making. But if you went onto someone's website and it was like a forest green background and they had like a little mountain in their logo, but then all of their work were like elopements in the Scottish Highlands, you kind of feel like everything is pulling in one direction. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not that you're not kind of getting jarring messages of like, well, what are they?
I think that's a really good place to start, is like when you're advertising and marketing, who you advertise and marketing to, and based on that is, what is your style and what kind of couples do you want to get? Because if you want to get couples who are really out there, have got all the colourful flowers and like crazy funky colours and things like that, then you might want a bit more of a funky logo with different fonts and stuff.
And the language that you use on your website, the language and the way that you talk to those people, And again, okay, let's use the captions on social media and your website, because that's the first thing that prospective clients will read. That's before they even email you in the language that you use in an email. It's like, if you're looking at doing something really quite serious and this and that, you wouldn't have like, hey guys, like on your About Me, or you wouldn't talk about, your...
The difference between yours and my website are pretty similar in the way we approach copy. Yeah. But like, I'll see photographers who it'll be like, John has been in the photography industry for 25 years. He has won the Portrait Photographer of the Year 2001. It's like, do you know what I mean? Like, really, like...
And I think, and for me, it's one of my pet hates.
Yeah.
And I did it. I hold my hands up. Like, my first website, my About Me was spoken in the third person.
Yeah.
And I think it's because I was too, like, I can't write about myself. And I got someone else to write it, and then just never changed it from my perspective afterwards.
Right. Yeah.
But now, I think... or the more that I've come to learn from what I want to do is that, like, someone said to me this phrase is that people buy from people, and I believe that. Like, I was trying like the idea that I'm buying from a person rather than like a corporate machine, and because most of us are all one-man bands, and particularly with photo and video, it's going to be us that's going to be at their wedding. Is that as much as they need to fall in love with the work that you show on your website, they need to tend to like you as well, because you're going to be around them probably for longer and in more close contact than a lot of their guests.
Depends on how you run your business. So some people do run their business where it doesn't matter who they are. Like, there's a lot of photographers I speak to, and it surprises me how many people just don't have consultation calls, and they're just like, just book them by text, don't I?
I find that bonkers.
But you're going to be there the whole day with them. What happens if you don't get on, or you don't, And
I think it's really hard because, like, it took me a long time to kind of, how can I say this? To just be me. And even now, like, and I think you still overthink it. Like, say if you do a big price increase or you want to move markets, you almost feel that you have to act a certain way.
Should I wear a bow tie now? Could I have $3,000?
Yeah, like, I can't be me because no one will like me. Or if I start to be more of myself, they'll realise that I'm actually an idiot and they won't book me at all. Or those sorts of things. But then I've come to realise, I think the couples that I allow myself to be most me around are the weddings that I enjoy the most and then get the best feedback from. And I think the more that I grow in confidence to go, okay, I can just be me and say what I would say to the people that I know as well as clients.
I feel like that's why knowing your market is important, because if I turned up to like a really sort of high-end London wedding and just was my normal self, I think people would be looking at me like, who is this kid? Like, who's this chavvy kid from Chatham turning up to film a wedding?
But like, I don't wear a suit to weddings. Like, again, I'm not scruffy, but I don't turn up.
No.
Like, again, if I went to somewhere that was really kind of like high-end luxury, I'm pretty sure that the door staff wouldn't let me in. But then at the same time, I know from a personal point of view that I like to have that rapport with my couples. So if I got to a high-end place where I was only booking through planners or wasn't able to just jump on a Zoom or a phone call with my couple and actually just shoot the breeze of them and find out what excites them and who they are as people, no matter what kind of social status they have. That lure for me to shoot the wedding, even that might be a great and lucrative wedding, wouldn't be there.
Exactly.
But then some people want to do that and are quite happy to be the fly on the wall in a dark suit in order to be those weddings. And I think if you probably look at what you love the most or the weddings that you enjoy the most, a lot of them probably are in some ways representative of certain parts of your personality, or they lean into certain traits that you have or interest, how that is.
You only have to look at how we designed our wedding, me and Kate, to see what we think we want to do in other people's. Like, we want people who are thinking about their guests having a good time. I mean, we spoke to a couple the other day, and the couple were like, so we've been to weddings before and they're really boring. So during reception drinks, we've got this, and this. Me and Kate looked at each other and was like, this is our couple. Like, the fact that they've said weddings are boring, we need to make sure our guests are happy while we're off doing yada yada. And that just pinged in our heads that we needed this couple basically to book. So.
And I find that, and I know like it's become like a running joke on the pod, like how quick my couple shoots are. Because again, I wouldn't like that spotlight to be solely on me for that long. I wouldn't like that. I'm not that kind of person that would want that many photos of just me. Like I would expect, or when I got my gallery, that I want as many photos of all the people that I've invited, because they're the people that I love. I want photos of them, not necessarily just photos of me. Like, so I always try and make sure that you do get that nice shot of grandma, or you work out the family dynamics or who the friends are, and you dig into those groups, and kind of make sure that there's as much of everybody else enjoying themselves on the day. I'm not just there just to provide a banging set of couple portraits and some document of the ceremony.
Exactly. All right, so to give it some structure then, we were talking about the website, so we might as well start with the website. Your website is I would say not overrated, but it's your final port of call, right? So everything else brings people to your website.
Yeah.
So while you might think that updating your website is going to magically get you more couples, if that website is not being seen or directed to from anywhere, then something's failing elsewhere. But yeah, like if we start with the website and work our way to more, like
we start at the bottom of the funnel, where the website's all your marketing hopefully should either lead you to an inquiry, which the most of the time comes through then a contact form on your website. So
you think,
it's all those arrows that you run around the streets hammering on lampposts should all point.
But you obviously
to your website.
You want to know your couple. So is your couple someone who's going to want like really posy black and white stuff? Is it someone who's going to want like the more fun stuff? Is it someone who's completely out there and like the more like boho bride or something like that? I don't know. That kind of end, festival weddings, things like that.
Yeah.
And then obviously you need to choose your fonts and copy and the kind of images that you're showing based on that as well. And as a videographer, obviously we don't have a huge selection of photos, I guess, to show. So that's why I think screenshots are a good practice as well, because
definitely
we, for a few months we were using a sunset shot as our main splash image on the front page of our website, and like after a couple of months I was like, why am I using this sunset shot? It doesn't, and they were quite straight faced as well. It wasn't like a really like happy laughy one. So we changed it to a really intense confetti shot instead. Yeah. And with everyone like, oh my, like
and I think that first image that you show has got to be as much as if you can encapsulate your style in a single frame. Yeah. And like you said, and we touched on it in another website, if you when you go and look at photographers' websites that you're going to come and work with, if you land on their page and that splash image is like a black tie wedding in front of a country house and they're walking away, you know what you're in for, as much as when you land on the website and it's the groom pouring champagne into the bride's mouth on the dance floor. Yeah. Like you kind of know what you're getting yourself into. And I think in the world of social media, which we'll touch on in a minute, is that people make snap decisions about or make assumptions about you and your business far quicker than they ever have done in the past. Yeah. So that when they land on that website, it needs to load quickly, which if you put a film at the top of your website wouldn't.
No.
While they're waiting for it to buffer, they're gone. Is that they need to see something straight away. Yeah. Which all sounds like it's cohesive and pulling itself in towards a kind of a loose vibe of where you want to be.
The colours in that top photo need to be on point.
Again, it's not always about logos a minute ago. It's that logo, that colour, the image that you use, all of that builds a picture.
Whatever tagline or H2 you're putting in needs to be like, or H1 you're putting needs to be like gripping for them, basically. This is what they want, sort of thing. I
think and I do it even if I was to go and buy a new car or want to go and buy a bag or go to a clothing website. Even if you've never heard of that brand before, when you land on their website, you know hopefully what they're about. From the way the font they use and their logo, the colours they use, the way their site's built, like all of those things, you know that, and that's kind of just good branding, I think. And that's where in all of your marketing, I think to begin with, is stumbling upon kind of a set of brand guidelines so that everything you put out across all of your marketing avenues is cohesive. And then when that refers back to your website, that looks the same as the pieces of marketing you've done.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, bigger businesses, like in an ideal world, you'd have a PDF with like your exact color schemes and like we have a sort of color palette thing, don't we, for this podcast. I don't really have one for my business, to be honest.
So that's because I only have 4-color. And I have the hex numbers for it. So if anything that goes out from like the way that I deliver my galleries, all of the background and the fonts for those and text, everything is only in Ever. There's like an almost black colour, an almost white colour, and then 2 accent colours. And everything for my business is always in those 4 colours.
And I think you kind of in an ideal world you'd have that. I don't know if it's necessarily, I've never had that kind of exact colour palette. I just sort of switch it up based on like, what my website redesign is about that year. So last year would have been more colourful. This year we've kind of toned down the colours a little bit, but kept some of the fun elements in the photos and things, because we're going for more like, fun but still like quite cinematic. So we're trying to tone it down a little bit.
But you've still got an avatar kind of in a perspective. You know who you want to market to. And I think so. Like to do that exercise at the beginning of before you start to make any marketing is having a clear vision in your head of who am I trying to market to.
So it can be cohesive across all of your market material.
Yeah, because you can't be everything to everyone. Like you can't try and market and have, say, a six slide carousel at the top of your wedding, where one image is super like emotive and moody, the next one's super fun, the next one's super alternative, because people get mixed messages. People like that need to look at your work, need to see themselves.
Who are you? What are you? What are you going to offer them? Like,
and if you go to if you picked like two brands out of the air, and you picked, I don't know, we'll use cars for example. Like if you pick a Mercedes branding out of the air, and then you pick, I don't know, Mini.
Yeah.
For example, they might be the same people.
Yeah.
But if you said to me who drives a Mini and who drives...
it's different people. Yeah.
You know, and drives a BMW or whatever.
Yeah.
They're two very different markets.
Yeah.
And the way that they're designed, the colours they use, the way that those two products are advertised, which is why they're still separated down in brands, because they're looking at very different ends of the market, not only from price point, but from demographic of who buys those.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's where it all starts. And like the design of the website is another thing, but it'd be intentional with the images you're using, the kind of copy you're using. And then I guess the next thing is SEO, because that's how your website gets seen initially. I personally thought SEO was more valuable before. So I'd say about sort of 2020, maybe 2019, we'd get a majority of our weddings through SEO. Now we're sort of maybe 5th or 6th in what we're targeting.
Oh wow, so it's shifted quite a lot.
Yeah, you used to be top, but we pretty much don't get much from Google. I think 3 of our weddings next year are from Google. Like, it really isn't many at all. Like, majority of them come from like photographers, Instagram, that kind of thing, which obviously all that stuff we'll get into. But I don't know if SEO is that important for certain things. And I have listened to a podcast recently on SEO, and one of the things I noticed was that, so I've been targeting Hampshire wedding videographer for a very long time. And you can look up how many searches that term gets on Google. Yeah. And it wasn't a lot. And I was like, oh, I've been targeting this for so long, and it's not actually getting that many searches. But when you type in Kent wedding videographer, it gets loads. So it turns out that Hampshire is just not a massive market for videography, at least of what people are typing. So SEO is going to hugely depend on if you've got a very specific... I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on it, but if you've got a very specific niche market that you're looking to target, or location, and it's also going to depend on where you are as well, I think.
I think that's it. It's fine is using those keywords cleverly, in that, like you said, in some ways with video, because video maybe is, by law of averages, there are probably far less videographers in the UK than there are photographers that are trying to market themselves. If you try and go, well, I don't want to just work where I live, and you try and get yourself to page 1 of Google by using the term UK wedding photographer, you're trying to fight through a crowd of tens of thousands of other websites.
Tried that
but at the same time, if you live in a village, you know, and you type in like your village name, wedding photographer, there's only 50 people that live in that village.
Yeah.
The chances are not many people are going to search for that term. So
you might be top, but no one's...
in some ways it's wonderful to have a real niche term so you can excel in it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you don't want to go so broad that in the end that you're kind of shouting amongst a crowd and no one's going to hear you.
I thought it was really interesting that just the Hampshire wedding videographer wasn't very searched at all. And I think
I find that crazy.
Yeah.
Because you'd think like Hampshire as a county, if you look at kind of the UK wide, is a fairly affluent county. You'd think and also looking over, it's like surveys that other wedding like suppliers do, is that more weddings happen in this, like below London, more than 50% of the weddings in the UK happen in the south of the country.
Okay. Yeah.
So that there would, there's limited amount of counties there that you'd think that more weddings.
The thing is, for us, like we've got Dorset one side, and West Sussex the other side, and both of them are actually, I'd say, a bit more affluent than Hampshire anyway. We someone said, said we got an email asking for some, like, if you've got any weddings that are filmed in Hampshire, like, can you send us? We're like, actually, this year we haven't done many in Hampshire at all, even though we're based there and we target it for SEO. We actually haven't done that many weddings in Hampshire this year, and I think that comes from it makes a sort of U shape or like N shape above us. We do Surrey above us, Dorset left, West Sussex right, but Hampshire's we don't really get that many for.
I think some of that is purely just geography as well. Like, I find the same. Like, I live, sort of in Portsmouth, which is bang in the middle of Hampshire. Yeah. But within 20 minutes, like you say, one way, I'm in West Sussex. But then, and say an hour the other way, then I'm over the Dorset border, and then so kind of although Hampshire's a big county, I kind of straddle 3 counties. Where if you also look at Yorkshire, I'm going to go back to Yorkshire again. I feel like I'm picking on them after last episode. Is that's obviously a big county. Where if you live bang in the middle of it, it might be that it takes you an hour and a half or 2 hour radius to get out.
To the next one,
so that to be a Yorkshire wedding, it means that more than often not, your weddings are always within that. Where I don't feel that, you know, when you're picking a H1 for your website, that I can go, I'm going to be a West Sussex wedding photographer because I don't live in West Sussex. Even though that you
probably could end up doing Kent because you've put West Sussex.
Like,
West Sussex.
Like a third of my weddings probably are in Chichester and, you know, towards Brighton way. But I'm still doing that search for Hampshire.
Yeah. So, you know, do some research on Google again, like go and like do some SEO because we're not experts, but like SEO research.
Well, that's the main thing is seek out an expert. Like Google is, you know, it can be a wealth for inquiries, and I think when you're starting out, that probably some ways you're building a good website with the limited work you've got. To build a reputable website which Google can gain trust in as you add other marketing avenues to it and then point that back to your website. I think, you know, in terms of like building a house, a good website is a really good foundation to add other layers of marketing to.
Definitely,
because it's all right going, I'm going to start an Instagram, but where do you point the people that you market to? Where are you pointing them to?
They're looking for an About Me page, and you, like from your Instagram, you need to find, like, they'll be looking, where's that website that I can go on and like try and find the About Me and the packages and stuff, but that they can't find it. They don't want to message Instagram, so they're out
as well. Like, and I'm sure that like we're both sat here as people that have websites and really believe in websites. There are wedding suppliers out there which do run their businesses solely from social media, which I find so risky. Like, you know, we talk about now with like Meta, like temporarily cancelling accounts, and how can you get to a point where people want to put their trust and their money in you? And I know obviously a website's a fairly disposable thing, but it's still seen as quite like, if you've got a website, you're quite a trusted, like you've almost got somewhere that's like a constant point of reference.
I'd definitely struggle to trust a company who's just on Instagram.
Which would be mad, wouldn't it? Because then imagine you managed to build yourself a good following, you booked everyone through your DMs. If Meta shut you down or restricted your account for 30 days, you've got people trying to message you about the wedding that they've got next week. You can't get anything from them. Like, you've gone from running a thriving business on that platform.
Business in the hands of Meta.
And that's it. And how do you do that? Like, you could go from literally having a thriving business to being ruined overnight. Well, at least I know your website can go down or whatever, but because you have a degree of control over that, or that links into your email account and the rest of it, it almost is like your own corner of the internet.
You can choose different suppliers,
which you can nurture as you are. I find it, it still blows my mind that in 2023, like people that still do run their messages from their Facebook DMs or from an Instagram page.
I think, like you said, the foundation is a good foundation to build on. You build your website, and then everything else funnels to that, and that becomes like your website is your hub and the thing that people should be going on to contact you through. Recently, we've been getting more and more Instagram messages as well that don't check out the website, but we usually direct them to the website because I don't know what it is about Instagram, but they'll message and they'll ask for a price list, whereas if you literally click the link in the bio, it comes up with packages, and you could just click that. So I literally just link them to that because But
then you think though that some of that is the way that Instagram is, or social media as a general is, like in some ways that it can be your greatest marketing tool, because you can now just go on and advertise, and essentially by posting a story or a post on Instagram, we'll use Instagram because I think Facebook's pretty much dead for wedding photographers now. It's not
using Facebook.
It's not 2008 anymore where you can just post some previews the day after a wedding and get like 200 likes or whatever. Those days are gone.
There's someone who's really offended by us slandering Facebook.
Probably, but it's times move, don't they? And there was a point probably in the middle of this year where a lot of people were falling out of love of Instagram and thought that was going to go the same way, and it seems to have redeemed itself a little bit, but I've lost my point now. I've literally moaning about Facebook and I've just lost my point.
All right, let's rewind it back then. So in terms of SEO, something I don't practice often, but I think you do, is blogging, right? So
yes. Well, I'd love to say that I blog regularly. I don't. I blogged, again, at the start of the year. I looked at the weddings that I'd edited from the year before and was like, where do I want to work most again? That I think blogs are the easiest avenue to get yourself back to to either get recommended
Yeah.
by venues or get seen by venues.
I know a photographer that worked at a really high-end venue once. He put it in his blog, literally put this wedding photographer, and now he's like top. And I think he's worked there a few times since.
And that's
just
it.
one
You,
blog.
you don't even need then to be recommended by that venue, which we'll talk about in a minute, because that's another avenue of things.
Yeah, yeah.
But let's say you go and someone books you to shoot their wedding at, say, X venue. You love it. The wedding's great. If you go then and make a blog post, and the title of that blog post is, your website name / X venue wedding photographer.
Yeah.
When you make that blog then, if someone goes on and goes, I'm getting married at X venue, they type into Google X venue wedding photographer, you're giving them a search term for that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And also,
yeah.
again, as filmmakers and photographers, it's really easy. You don't just have to write a load of copy to go, I am really good, I promise, I've worked at this venue.
Yeah.
You've made photos there. So people that are at the beginning of their journey go, we've been seeing that venue, it's lovely. You can colour in the gaps for them. They might have gone to that venue and seen an empty room. But then when you're showing them a wedding from a similar time of year, they got married. This is how it looks like. This is the sunset you'll get there. When they visit, like 11 a.m. on a Sunday morning, there wasn't no sunset.
Yeah.
But when they see that field they peered out the window at in basking golden light and a couple in it, they start to see themselves in there. And I think blogging is a really easy way to put yourself. I know you've got to get the booking at first to have a venue.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? To get there.
But I think it's often considered quite old school. Like, you should be putting on Instagram, but Instagram doesn't really have the level of SEO that blogging does. Like, you could literally, if you get lucky, you could literally have, like you say, have that venue in the title and suddenly be top. Like, it's
the longevity in blogging as well is absolutely huge. And I think that goes again back to your website. Is once you publish that blog on your website, as long as you have that website, that blog lives and it is constantly being searched. That's that term searched, or it's constantly in that kind of cycle of being found by Google. The more people view that blog post, the more it comes up.
Yeah.
Where on Instagram, you could post those same photos that are in that blog post. 2 days later, they're dead.
Yeah.
No one scrolls back that far
Yeah.
to go, I really like this guy. I wonder if he shot at my venue. But by the time they're more than 3 or 4 rows deep, they can't care.
Yeah.
But if they go into Google and search in this, and then it comes up
that's
and it lives there forever. And in the end, it might even be that if you shoot a better wedding there at the same venue 2 years later, you delete the old blog and then update the new one. So you're almost showing the best of what you do. And I, funnily enough, got my, you get your Google Analytics report, don't you?
Yeah.
For like the month. Mine came through yesterday, I think. And after my homepage, 2 of my blog posts for 2 of the venues that I like to work the most were my most viewed pages.
Wow.
More than my pricing, my about me. And that's the first time in about 6 or 7 months that's happened.
Wow, that's crazy.
And those blogs I probably made before Easter this year.
Yeah. To take it from someone who I've never done blogging. I've started a blog probably twice, done one post and then ditched it again and taken it off the website. But I think back now, so I've been doing this for 8-9 years, whatever. If I had just blogged once a month, I'd have like 90 solid SEO opportunities.
And I think that's it as well, is that if you think that you're rushing, and I don't want to say, I really don't want the Meta to come after us, but Instagram is great, but it's almost like a shot in the arm. It's a quick fix. You get a huge spike, hopefully, from a post you put up.
Yeah.
And then quite quickly that kind of, burst of excitement or engagement fades away. The spike on it's pretty high. But hopefully on a blog you're creating much more evergreen content and lasting content, which even again, if someone finds your blog from that venue that you shot 5 years ago, all they've got to do is like the images. It might not be representative of where you are now, but if they click on that, then they go, we really like this, and then that links into the rest of your website and go, well, that works even better. Again, it's all drawing back to that. And I think blogs are still, I think if people now have moved on and think it's all about socials. But they're actually still a really easy win.
Yeah, definitely.
And if you listen to our last episode, obviously about AI, now you can get ChatGPT to pretty much write the copy for you. You've already edited the images.
And there's a thing that people think Google can obviously detect AI. I don't think we're quite there yet. When it would detect it completely. Does that make sense? I don't think it would be like, this is written by AI, this is not getting shown. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it is, but I don't think Google can probably detect it as well as people think it can.
But again, if you're looking to fill, from, again, and I'm far from an SEO expert, but if you speak to one and they say roughly for a page to perform well, you need 400 words of copy about this venue or whatever, or again, you're trying to find search terms. With AI, I'm sure if you said, tell me some facts about Warwick Castle, because I've shot a wedding there, it would tell you when it was built, who built it, and a load of bump of history, because that information is out there.
Hot tip as well, if you have an older blog post that you think might do well now, just go back, change some words,
Yeah.
update some things, and Google kind of refreshes it and it kind of updates and puts it a little bit higher.
Yeah, someone
in theory.
as I've always said to me, and again, I'm far from a web expert, the Google likes new content,
Yeah,
but it
yeah.
also likes current content. And even if you go in and just change some stuff, so I think even if you get to that website task, like we were saying, don't just do it once a year. Even if you decide halfway through the summer, oh, someone took a nice picture of me at a wedding, I'm just going to change my About Me photo on the page.
Yeah.
Or even you go in and just change one paragraph
Yeah.
on your About Me page.
Yeah.
It automatically, Google see that you're actively updating that website.
Yeah.
It's not something which has been left, and they see it as old news because it hasn't been updated in a year.
Yeah.
Like those quite little changes can almost reinvigorate Google's interest in your site. And so I think
exactly.
it doesn't have to be, oh, I'm going to make a whole day about this. Like, say that quick 10 minutes can make a much bigger,
Yeah, we'll have to come back to SEO at some point. I feel like
I feel like we should get somebody on.
we
should get somebody on who knows about SEO more than we do. And I feel like I've been to talks about SEO, or even when talking to other people, things that I do quite organically, I probably know more than I think I do.
Yeah.
But I would never class myself to be an expert
Yeah.
in Google at all.
Yeah, exactly. I think neither of us. I'd say it's something that I really want to put some effort into this winter. I've been quite intent on getting my current pages good of SEO, but I've never really been interested in adding like blog posts and stuff. But I feel like it's time now to start focusing on bits like that.
Especially as well when you've shot weddings at some really good venues, or you've even said to yourself, oh, I'd love to go back to that venue.
Yeah.
And obviously when we're suppliers that are at the mercy, we can only go where we're booked.
Yeah.
You can't just go, oh, I'd really love to shoot a wedding on the moon.
Suddenly you're there.
And then all of a sudden someone's booking you a spaceship. It doesn't happen like that.
Yeah.
You need to kind of use the tools that you do have in your arsenal
Yeah.
to try and encourage people to be like, look at me, I'd really love to go there.
Yeah.
Or look, I did this here once, I could do that for you. And that's essentially what marketing is. Or
that's me with Tunnels Beaches for ages. I put out a YouTube video that I'd filmed there, a highlights video on YouTube, and it went to like top of Google when you're typing in Tunnels Beaches video or something, and people were booking me from it. But now it's so old that people are looking at it like, oh, this looks old. Like it actually it's aged a bit, to be fair. Like,
but again, you just got to live in hope that when you book that up in 2 or 3 years, you get one more booking there again. That when that one, so you're almost kind of just allowing yourself to skip in stone over those bookings. Because venues do ebb and flow. Sometimes I find I'm at places loads one year, then I'm not there again for 3 years.
That's weird, isn't it?
But if I could hash together a blog from the best of, and I think that's, I also don't always think that it has to be, you don't have to have one great wedding from somewhere. If you're lucky enough to shoot 2 or 3 good weddings from somewhere, just do a blog post targeted about that venue.
Yeah.
And
true.
then just go, these are my, I've shot this venue a few times, because you're establishing yourself as an experienced person at that venue.
Yeah.
And I think the reason that we keep talking about venues as well, and I feel like it's been quite heavy with that, is that if you think of a couple in their booking journey, but I'd say 9 times out of 10, couples are booking their venue first.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think, so in terms of marketing...
So they're researching, they tend to be researching based on their venue. I'd say what, 80% of suppliers that couples book, they book that supplier because they've either been to that venue before, or they're recommended by the venue, or they come up in the blog post of the venue. I reckon it's pretty close to...
And I would say, again,
we're
talking about numbers, I think probably, around probably a quarter of my weddings come through Google, probably about a quarter again come through Instagram, and the rest are either word of mouth from previous couples or word of mouth from venues that I'm recommended at.
Yeah, exactly. How many times you rock up to a venue and it's like, it's the same makeup artist, the same hairstyle, this is the same, and it's like they've clearly booked it because that venue has gone, this person works all the time, they know what they're doing, and then they're going, yeah, cool, like that's it.
And I think as well, so in some ways it can, it's making sure that if a venue wants to recommend you, that's great. But I think at the main time, it's making sure that it's a venue that you do want to work at. Because if you do really lean into that relationship with them, you could end up with a lot of weddings at that venue. And obviously, you don't want to be somewhere. You don't want all of your weddings for 1 year to be in one venue. Or I don't think for creatively. But at the same time, it's nice to have a venue which is familiar to you. Well, I have a couple of venues.
This before, weren't we? How we like variety, but at the same time, it's nice to have 10 minutes down the road. Yeah, I recommended that. But we wouldn't. At the same time, me and you wouldn't do 30 weddings at that venue that's 10 minutes away.
I never want to get stuck in a rut, or in the end become almost too marketed that you become typecast.
Oh yeah,
like an actor that spends 20 years in a soap, and then when they come out of that and try and do something else, you go, oh, that's that guy from EastEnders.
Yeah.
So, and I don't want to become known as, oh, you're just the guy that shoots at the Square Tower.
Poor Daniel Radcliffe.
Exactly that, but it is though, isn't he? How many people go, oh, that's the guy from Harry Potter? And it's true, but you don't want to become, oh, you're the guy that only shoots at that venue.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So venue targeting is important, but I mean, we'll let you decide whether you want to shoot 30 weddings at the same venue or whether you want to do variety. I think we're more variety people,
Yeah.
but it is also nice because at the end of the day, we're a business and we need to earn money to have those venues that like are pretty safe and you can get inquiries from and be like, do you know what, I'll take it. It's 10 minutes down the road.
Yeah, and I really enjoy that balance of I'm recommended, I think, at 3 or 4 venues. They actively recommend me to their couples, and they're venues that, again, I've as my relationship has built with them, I know, the people that run the venues, the staff that work there. I like to have that over those 4 venues, probably half my weddings of the year are at one of those 4 venues, and then the other half are at places that I only go probably once a year or I've never been before.
Yeah.
So it kind of, again, you have that nice balance
mixture,
okay, I'm really experienced here. I know I can go there. I know the faces that I'm turning up to. There's something quite almost that you feel that you can, because you're super confident in that venue, you can push the boundaries more than you would normally, but at the same time I'm still creatively fulfilled, or branching out, that if a relationship with one of those venues did break down, I've not lost my whole business. And kind of, I like you say, it's never putting all of your eggs in one basket.
You can be more your brand because you know all the staff there and you know where you're going and stuff like that. If you turn up somewhere you don't know, half your focus is on just like making sure you're in the right place at the right time.
And I think as well, almost to be seen that the types of venue that you're at, like I make no secret now that I do very, very little hotel weddings. Because a lot of the stuff that the style of my photography is quite loose, it's quite informal, quite documentary. You can't do that when you're on such a strict schedule and the same schedule that everybody has at a hotel. So I do tend to do more barns, fields, and the same. So it's quite different, isn't it? So you need to kind of almost be seen that's kind of a branding choice in that you can in the way that you market yourself, not just for a single venue, but kind of people sense a trend from you or get a feel from you as a photographer. Like if you want festival wedding vibes, like that guy does loads of outdoor stuff. Or if you're a city, you love to photograph on the streets of places and in buildings. If you'll get married at a town hall.
I think that's a very good point actually, and talking about what you don't want to do as well is like because you made me think about with you saying about hotels. Obviously, we're pretty similar. I could probably count on one hand the amount of hotels we've done this year. But also churches is a big thing as well. Like if you're someone who finds church weddings stressful, stop putting them on your website and on your Instagram and stuff. And I personally find them a little bit more stressful than normal weddings. I wouldn't say we don't have any on the website. Potentially, I think we just put one on the website, but that's because it was like Arundel Cathedral and it's just epic, basically, But I wouldn't say we don't do them. We've got probably a few bits in next year, but we don't specifically advertise to them. And the same with hotels. Like, it's not that we don't do them. We just we prefer posting the barn ones and that because they're generally more of our vibe. But if we get an inquiry for a nice hotel, of course we're going to do it. Of course, yeah. Then you're not ruling things out, but you're just knowing what you're targeting towards. And then if you end up doing 5 church weddings, if you do 30 weddings a year, you do 5 church weddings, that's fine. Like I'll speak to those couples and they'll be like, you know what? I'm not a massive fan of doing like the big church ceremonies, but this couple well nice, and the wedding afterwards is going to be incredible. So
there's no point I think in having like super set. God, I don't do this because you could miss out on a really great opportunity.
I say churches because I think it might be more of a thing for video, but I think because video is a bit of a faff setting up and taking down.
I feel like we can have a whole conversation with churches again. For every one lovely vicar that I've had that's let me be everywhere, I've probably had 2 that have banished me to a dark corner or told me I'm not allowed to move or have to be on silent or can only photograph one particular part of the ceremony.
It's not even that though. It's the stress of like having a mic up all the people and have the tripods and cameras set up. You've come from someone's house and they're late and you've arrived late.
That's the big thing for me. And I know we spoke about that a lot of times in some of the other sort of more practical episodes. It's that you nearly always then have a 3-location wedding. I love being somewhere all at the same place for the whole day. So that's probably, it's less of a shun on churches. It's for me, it's a logistical thing for what that type of wedding tends to bring. And again,
I'd say actually you're right there. It's not churches necessarily. It's 3-location weddings. It's
the logistics of a church. Like if you went somewhere like Wasting Park that has a church on site and it's just a walk back to the barn afterwards.
It's no problem.
And I think if you go back to my car analogy, like it's not to say that only middle-aged white businessmen buy this type of BMW, because I'm sure there's lots of families that have them as well. It's just that's their target audience. Do you know what I mean? Like where you could target to, I really only want fun couples who are kind of roughly of this age and this and that. But if you get someone else that comes on, people are still going to identify in your work. It's never a complete foolproof solution.
Exactly,
and I will never say to someone, oh no, you're 2 years too old for my demographic, I'm not going to book your wedding. I wouldn't say that, but I might not show it. And I think it's really, it's okay to go to a wedding, take the people's money, have a lovely time, make them very happy, and have a great time at the wedding. But when you're trying to hone yourself or push yourself into a direction of what people think your brand is, or to attract a certain area of the market, it's perfectly okay to not show everything that you shoot.
Yeah. And I think it's really interesting to see the variety of work that people go for as well, because I've mentioned this on the pod before, but I've recently had it again where it's like I've done a pre-wedding call with a couple and gone like, oh, who's the photographer? And they'll be like, oh, it's this person. So I'll like Google it, and it's like all black and white and like really editorial and stuff. And they're like, oh yeah, like they've done Vogue magazine and all this stuff. And like I literally say to them, like, we're exactly the opposite to what this person is. And I'm not afraid to say it. Like, yeah, okay, you've got this photographer, you clearly like that style for photography. We're not that, just to let you know. And obviously they booked us because they know that, but I want to...
Yeah, and your marketing has shown that you're very much not that. It's not like, again, you've gone, oh, I did this really great wedding once. That won't be the most money, but that one was quite black and white and quite moody. I'm going to show it because it's good. And then all of your other weddings aren't like that. If someone sees that can almost then be, say, you're almost mis-selling yourself, aren't you, really?
Yeah. So but that's mainly, to be fair, in terms of like couple shoot and things like that, because we say, like, if your photographer is a bit more stationary and likes the magazine stuff, then, or editorial stuff, then we might have to get involved more to get the bits that we like to get as well. And we sort of explain that to them. But yeah, I think obviously, like you say, it's not foolproof. And you know, just because you're targeting not this venue or not this type of venue or whatever, if you get an inquiry for that type of venue, have an open mind, because the couple might be amazing. Like, you might think a venue is quite low end, but this couple's booked it and they were going to spend tons of money.
Yeah, where they've saved on the venue, they've pushed that into having everything else at their wedding.
And you just don't know, do you? So have an open mind to it, but venue targeting is quite good.
I think that's what I always say. Yeah, use your branding or those decisions that you make. They are only a guide or a guideline. Yeah, because again, like we said at the start of the episode, if you try and market to everybody, you're not showing a clear message of what you want to do. That can be confusing to a couple, but it's also being open to everything. And I feel like we've covered that really well. So now, we've kind of skirted around the idea of social media a little bit, and I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about it, because it is such a huge marketing tool for all businesses in 2023 and looking into next year. Whether it is, if you are still, kind of have a solid Facebook community that are messaging you, whether you're trying to build yourself an Instagram following, or even if you're looking into things like TikTok now. And I think for videographers, if you can pick bits out of videos that you could maybe make potentially viral content for TikTok, that's going to get you seen.
I do feel like Facebook is sort of, we won't talk about it a lot probably, because I don't feel like it's the target market for what we're going for.
I've hovered over the button of deleting my Facebook page several times.
Let's be honest, we're targeting people younger than us, right? We're probably targeting people the same age or younger than us, and most of them probably don't use Facebook anymore.
I'll be honest. I have in the back of a notebook, which I started at the start of. I have and it evolves. I kind of tweak it every year, but my demographic are very much the weddings that I want to photograph is 25 to 40. That's it.
Exactly.
So most of the couples that you find on my website, I've shot a wedding for a couple this year that are in their 60s. I've shot my youngest ever couple this year that were barely 20. But my demographic is 25 to 40. So you need to think of what are they using? Where do 25 to 40 year olds? What do they use socially? For them to find you?
And I feel like Instagram is definitely the main bulk of that. TikTok is definitely something to think about, but unfortunately it's something that me and you really haven't gone into quite a lot. I've started a TikTok maybe a year or two ago and posted on it like 4 times. And quite recently I got an inquiry from TikTok, and it sort of sparked something in my brain, like maybe I should have been posting on TikTok. Because if I've got an inquiry from TikTok when I've only posted on there 4 times in like a year, then imagine I posted like as much as I do on Instagram.
And also I think for the, I hate this word, and I say this every time, the vibe of couples that you're looking to attract, your kind of main MO, if you like, is fun, energetic, laughter stuff. All of the stuff. So if you were showing, I'm thinking Carolina Christian's wedding that we went to. That bit where she walks and throws the beer pong and it lands and everyone cheers.
That's what I put on there, I think.
You'd look at that and go, oh, definitely want that at my wedding. But you can make a short form version of that. And that works really well on TikTok. And I feel like
that's funny you should mention, because I think that's exactly what I did. I made a short form version of that and put it on TikTok.
Again, if you have a couple that have a bouncy castle at their wedding and the bride does a backflip and her dress goes up. It's all those things, isn't it? Where as a videographer, I think you harness that power, and the power in video content on TikTok particularly, rather than making slideshows and stuff like that. But you've probably got an arsenal of stuff that you could chop out of footage that you've delivered,
of course,
which is far easier than me as a photographer making the effort to have to take behind the scenes photos or have a GoPro of my camera or something to get video content of me doing my job or the things that happen at my weddings. In order to use, because video content is. That's where it's at really with TikTok, isn't it? Yeah.
I think the problem with TikTok for me is it doesn't resonate with me. Like if I scroll through TikTok, I'm kind of looking at it like none of this appeals to me whatsoever. So I think I struggle to post on there because I think it has to be like this other stuff, which is like in your face, super fast paced. It's like, it's overwhelming for me. It's a bit too it feels like the target audience is a bit younger than me.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to post on it, I'm like, I can't make this content because I don't resonate with it. But to post on it is better than to post on it with something that might not appeal or it might not be like everyone else is better than to not post on it at all. Does that make sense? So
I think that's it. For me, again, I don't have TikTok. I don't use it, and I maybe sound like a little bit of a granddad when I don't understand it.
Yeah.
But in order, again, I would rather not have something than do it badly. Like when you see like.
I'll send it opposite. I'll say just do it.
When you see businesses though that post on Instagram and the captions are so like, here is a picture of a cake that I made.
Yeah.
I love this cake. It's like, you have no idea how that works.
Yeah.
Like they've tagged in like the wrong thing. Like there's no hashtag. There's like, you can clearly see like, fair enough, they're putting something out there, but you're not going to look at that and go, oh, do you know what? That's really a bit of me.
Yeah.
Like I'd almost, if I was to made a decision or came to the realization that, do you know what? I need to be on TikTok. Let's be honest. In order to find the couples of my demographic and that, they are all using TikTok. It's just me that's not. I would want to either go on a course or just download it, and I'd force myself to use it.
Yeah.
So that I understood it.
True. Yeah.
Rather than try and be that granddad in the corner posting on the TikTok. You know what I mean? Because that's what. It's like that idea,
along
isn't it?
to some song.
And like we talked about it in the AI episode. It's that idea of staying ahead of the curve all the time.
Yeah.
Identifying where your target couples are, and almost walking into their circles and marketing it to them there, rather than it. There's no point trying to market to a 19-year-old audience and take out a Facebook ad, is there?
Yeah. Very good point. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Figure out what your audience are looking at, and I feel like for most people who are probably targeting the same sort of age group that we are.
Yeah.
Instagram, TikTok is definitely.
But it might be on the flip side of the coin. If you're looking at, you want to have a business model where you're like, my sole demographic is second time around marriages for people between the ages
already
of
got kids,
45 and 60.
Yeah.
For you to take out a sponsored ad on Facebook,
it might actually work. Yeah, exactly.
Because because those people are going, well, I'm not going on TikTok. It's too old for me. It's finding. It's almost. It goes back to that brand thing. There's identifying who your couple that you're trying to market to are, and almost getting yourself in the head of that couple and going, well, where do they go? What do they consume?
Yeah.
I don't think I haven't bought a magazine in years.
Yeah, exactly. You don't
like
want to
a
be
physical magazine.
Yeah.
So if a county's magazine or even something which was deemed as a more trendy magazine said, "Oh, do you want to pay £500 for a half-page ad in my magazine?"
I get these calls so much. I just don't.
I probably wouldn't do it.
No.
Because even if I now decided to get remarried or to get married, I would go on Instagram.
Yeah.
And I would search my wedding venue.
100%. Yeah.
I wouldn't go to my local Tesco's and pick up the county's wedding magazine with my food shop.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, no, exactly. So that's where your target audience is. You want to be that. The problem is, I feel like Instagram is a huge topic. I feel like as a whole episode topic.
I find it mad we haven't done an Instagram episode.
Yeah. It may be worth us doing an Instagram episode, and sort of, we're not going to skirt around it here, but like obviously the episode's getting on a bit, and we're talking about all the different sort of avenues you can go. I feel like the one thing I did want to say about Instagram, I feel like in the episode we do about Instagram, we can talk about like our methods, techniques, what we do. But I feel like the main thing about Instagram is don't overthink it.
Sure.
I think there's so much out there, like how to cheat the Instagram algorithm. You've got to do this many reels. You've got to post at this time. And like if you overthink it, you're going to end up doing nothing, or you're going to end up overworking yourself.
And also, it doesn't work. I think any time that in marketing particularly, or anything in your business, you try and look for a hack, a shortcut, a quick win, whether it's with SEO. You know, like when we first came into the business, that was like write your H1 keyword in white text and put it on a white background, and write it 100 times, because Google will see that you're Hampshire Wedding Vlog, and it's like, but it will find you out. It's got clever now and knows that's a hack.
Yeah.
And it won't get in. I think it's the same that you can go onto Instagram. You could buy yourself 1,000 followers, or you know, you can go, oh, do you know what? Even though I've only got 200 people following me, if I get a tick, people will love me. Or if I post at 5 o'clock one day every day, you know, if you try and do all these shortcuts, I think in the end people do see through it. It's kind of whatever you're going to post is be very targeted to who you want to post it to, but also just come across as genuine and authentic in what you're posting.
Yeah, definitely. And just post because some post is better than no post, basically. If you feel like, oh, I haven't posted in a while, as a videographer, you probably get loads of clips. You can just slow it down to 50%, put some text on it or something. Do you know what I mean? And put it on. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't do this because I've had a very specific marketing structure for my Instagram for this year, where I do screenshots from a wedding, then a video, then screenshots, then a video, and I've been sort of practicing with that. But next year, I think I might go lean more into the Reels side and do some sort of like, you know, a short every week or something like that. But this year, I want to very much focus on that and see where that gets me, so that, because right now, if you scroll through my feed, it's exactly how I want it to look. Like the colors, the exact thumbnail used for the shot, like the actual grid looks great. But the grid's one of the things that I would tell other people, please don't focus on it, because like I don't know if a couple looks at your grid and is like, oh, this is the person I want to hire.
Yeah. Or I find, again, if someone to me, oh, you got 20 minutes to go on Instagram.
Yeah.
I would probably spend most of that time just going through stories and then be lured away from stories to something. So that's something that I made a really conscious effort to do this year. Is I probably posted on my grid this year less than I ever have. But if I have, it's always been a link to my story.
But you've done story,
I've always used my stories at least, much more often. Yeah. In high season, almost daily. Into the dark, you know, into the quieter end of the season, probably once every 2 or 3 days, if I've got something to share.
Yeah.
But you can be a lot more conversational in your stories. I feel like getting personality across. There's stuff that I would post in my stories that I wouldn't put on my grid, because I don't want it to live there forever. Yeah. But in that current moment when I can go, I can chat to the camera about something that's coming up that week, or you know, I can do that. It remains there, and that makes you incredibly more personable. Yeah,
don't forget to utilize stories and the little, what's the thing where it saves the stories?
Highlights.
Yeah. Oh my god, it sounds so old.
But it's true, and I think open, and it's having that degree of confidence. Like I can probably say that when I started talking to camera, it was horrible.
Yeah,
I stumbled over my words. I didn't like looking at my face on the screen. Any of those things.
Yeah.
But the more that you do it, you just become desensitized.
I've become used to just opening my Instagram and seeing your face pop up.
And again, the amount of people, I'd walk my dog in the park, and someone would come up to me and go, oh, I saw your story today. Oh, I love listening to you. They're not getting married, or whatever, but they just enjoy, they follow along, or they're interested in the journey. Yeah. And once you can kind of separate the kind of, oh my god, I look stupid, or I feel stupid, I don't sound like that.
Yeah.
And you just realise that most
people don't see you the way you see yourself.
You never. It's like you are so much a harsher critic to yourself than other people are. They just enjoy that you've had this funny story from a wedding to share, or whatever, or you probably watch lots of other people that are just sat on their office floor or in their desk talking to you and enjoy it.
Yeah.
And you don't realise that could be you.
That's the thing, is I watch yours pretty much all the way through. And we're mates, so I guess it's different. Yeah. But like, I watch yours all the way through. But then when I go to record my own, I end up not posting it, because I'm like, who actually cares what I did at the weekend?
But I'd watch it.
Yeah, exactly.
When you do, again, I sit and watch yours. Or like, I was at a wedding a couple of months ago, and like the maid of one came up to me and was like, oh, hi Tom, there's that, and just chatting. No, he's like, she knew me.
Yeah.
And then about 20 minutes later, she's like, I'm really sorry. She's like, and we'd had like a whole conversation about like my dog and where I'd recently been on holiday.
Yeah.
And I just didn't think anything of it. I just assumed that and she was like, she probably think I'm a real weirdo now. She's like, but I followed since like my friend booked you.
She felt like she knew you because
since like her friend had booked me for her wedding, she started following me on Instagram.
Yeah.
So for the past 9 months,
she'd been seeing your face talking about
stories.
Yeah.
So she knew where I'd been on holiday, like what I ate for breakfast, like you know, like the things about my dog, and all of those things. So by the time I got to today, she was super comfortable with me. I'd never met the woman.
Yeah. That's quite a big thing, isn't it?
Like in order to
stories are the only way to do that, because your grid posts aren't going to get that level of personality.
Yeah, like when people say you should put your face on the grid, like if you scroll down a grid to every 9 or 12 photos, there should be a photo of you.
Yes, yeah.
And I think when you are a person, a one-man business, you need to be evident to know who you are. But I think stories is a much better way of almost injecting personality or being personable. Like I
Definitely,
quite like that there's things on my stories that I can post out
they're fleeting.
and they're gone in 24 hours.
Yeah, exactly. You tell them the story about your day. If no one listens to it, it's gone. And after
in 24 hours doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like I think that's a useful tool in terms of getting your main posts in as well.
Yes,
because I believe
sure.
if people watch more of your stories, then they'll see more of your main posts. So.
But again, it's that thing that it all harmonizes together, isn't it? Is that if people watch your stories about you kind of being you, and then you go, oh, well, I just posted this, they will click on that out of your stories to go and look at your grid.
Yeah.
So that kind of filters out. Where if you send a link and go, oh, I'm now doing this. This is on my web. This is the blog post I've just done, and then tag a link into your website, they will click on that and go to your website.
Yeah.
And I think that's the idea of marketing. If you think of it as kind of a funnel or a web, that one thing leads to another.
Yeah.
Is that's you can't put your eggs all in one basket, but at the same time you can't do everything well.
Yeah.
So it's recognizing, okay, where do the people that I want to book, where do they hang out socially?
Yeah.
I'm going to lean into say these 2 or 3 methods. They're my main core elements of marketing.
Yeah.
Because I can do 2 or 3 better than I can do 6 or 7 half-assed.
Yeah.
And then you start to build your web on those apps that all links back to your website or back to wherever.
And there are people, you can see there's people out there doing really well on like TikTok, but maybe not so active on Instagram and vice versa and things like that. Because that's where they know their audience is.
There's so many hours in the day as well.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
we said about using AI in the last episode to save time. Let's be honest, like 10 years ago, talking to your Instagram story or even thinking of stuff to post on Instagram wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
So you hadn't if that time wasn't in your day.
Well, I think you should be, again, talking about the website when we were saying like, do it in little bursts. I think Instagram's the same. Like I notice sometimes when you go in, and it's like February, March, and you go onto a videographer or a photographer's Instagram and they haven't posted since November the year before, and you can tell they've just either run out of content to post from that summer, or they've been too busy editing, and they went like so December and Christmas is hit and everything, they just haven't been posting. I think that's the worst thing you can do, because everyone else is doing that. So if you're still posting during the winter and booking season, then you're doing better than most of these people.
But it's that trust thing as well, isn't it? Again, if you were looking to book someone and you go, they haven't posted in 6 months.
Yeah.
Are they still doing this? Are they still in business?
I know someone recently got married and their videographer had not posted in a while and was they're a bit worried about like, oh,
and if that's how they found
are they
you,
still doing it?
And I think that's the other biggest thing as well, is that in anything that you do, and with marketing particularly, if you read any of the books on marketing or speak to any of the gurus, is that beyond anything else, consistency is the key. Like you say, but it's the same as going to the gym or building your business or whatever. You do 6 stories a day for 6 days in a row, and then do nothing for 6 months. There was no point in doing those 36 stories. Where if you did one story 3 days apart for a year,
then you're building it.
You would see a much
slowly.
more consistent growth period in that.
Yeah.
And I think the same with your website. Rather than I'm gonna, you leave it for 4 years, do nothing to it, and then completely rebuild it, and you rinse and repeat that pattern.
Yeah.
Like everything is kind of a little and often, consistent. Whatever you're gonna do is do it consistently.
Yeah.
And I think I remember being really, really early on when I wanted to become self-employed as a photographer, is that I remember going to there was like a creative support network at my university.
Yeah.
And we were talking to the guy then. So this is probably like 2009, 2010. So social media was like, Facebook was barely a thing.
Yeah.
And we were talking then about blogging, or like Blogspot. Do you remember Blogspot?
Yeah.
Where you had a blog rather than it be a thing on your
on
your website. I'm showing my age. And so like he was saying then, he was like, do you follow people on Blogspot? And I was like, yeah, I really do.
Yeah.
So he was like, so you read the blog they put up, and he was like, maybe 3 days later you'll go back and see if they made another one.
Yeah.
And if they haven't, you might give it another 3 days. He's like, over the course of time that you follow that person, if you come to know they only blog weekly, you'll probably only check their blog once a week.
Once a week, yeah.
And then if you keep following and keep checking back and keep getting disappointed and realise that they only ever blog monthly, you'll start to only check back once every month.
That's the same as releasing this podcast, really, isn't it?
Exactly the same, yeah.
At the beginning, we'd identified that once a week was unrealistic to us. We didn't want to be missing weeks.
Yeah.
So we decided every other week, and I think we've missed a week.
I think we've had 2 instances where it's gone 3 weeks, which have both been out of our hands, really. Yeah. But again, I like to think that, say, rather than go, we're going to do weekly, did that for 6 weeks. And then just gone, then got exhausted from doing weekly. We exhausted the content, the effort of meeting up to do it. Then we go, we need the summer off.
They're obviously long episodes, so we make up for it.
We're almost an hour and a quarter into this one as well. But I think to have that is if we can kind of start to wrap it up, then I think if you were kind of breaking it into some kind of real small things or small wins that you can do
at a basic level, as non-marketing expert sat here, we know how our businesses work and stuff. Is the amount of exposure, the amount of times you're seen is quite important, isn't it? Is if you are on Instagram and then someone wants to go see your website and then they click on your website and then they Google their venue and then you come up with a blog on their venue, that's 3 times they've seen you.
I'm sure there's a stat.
And we've not even mentioned the passive advertising thing, which I don't think we're going to have time to mention, but of being nice to other suppliers.
That's just free advertising.
Yeah.
I say just people just knowing what you do, being a nice person at a wedding.
Yeah.
If you have a positive impact on that person's day, someone at that wedding is going to see you.
Yeah.
You're still marketing yourself in that instance, just because you're not leaving business cards on the tables as you leave the wedding.
A vast majority of our weddings come from photographers who recommend us, and that is equally lovely and scary at the same time because we're like, photographers recommend us, like they can just turn around one day and decide not to. But because we get on well with photographers and because we respect their work and work well with them and stuff, they end up recommending us. But it's not like that photographer's gone, go to that person, they've just trusted them straight up. Sometimes it will say, where have you heard from us? And they'll be like, Google/Instagram/ our photographer also recommended you. And so they've seen us through 3 different things and gone, they must be good then.
I'm sure there is like a marketing thing that says that someone needs to see your name or your work, I think it's 7 times before they will trust you.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So again, if you think, say, like you've listed 3 there straight off really quite quickly, and if they look at the next week, they're on Instagram and you pop up in a story bubble, or someone else is linked to that venue's posted the images because you sent them to the venue. And this and that, you're almost appearing. In the end, it's like we keep looking at other people, but this person keeps popping up.
Yeah.
There must be a reason for that.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Because I'm watching their content. Because you're getting stuff out.
Yeah, in terms of that's it. Like in terms of kind of easy wins, the best thing you can just do is start.
Yeah,
you can spend ages overthinking to make this perfect, elaborate campaign or thing. It's just start
and start slowly. Don't just start. Don't just start putting out 10 stories a day because you think it's a good thing to do.
Don't
post
like everything at once because again you'll peak too soon. Just start, do it consistently, and the other biggest one I think that I've got on my list, which is at the top, is track it.
Yeah.
If you are going to pay for advertising, or you are going to start to put much more effort into Instagram, is have somewhere on your contact form or a spreadsheet, is there anybody that gets in touch with you, you know how they have found you.
Yeah.
Because if you've then decided to go down a magazine route or pay for a blog directory, if you're spending that money on that, you need to know that money is well spent. So, or if you know in the end, nearly all my work comes from word of mouth. Like you're knowing then that there's maybe not, if you're consistently booking out year on year from good reviews and word of mouth alone, you probably don't need to go and spend £400 and £500 on that blog directory.
That's the thing. Like I pretty much spend 0 money on advertising a year, and I know that if I spent more money on advertising, I'd get more leads and then be able to charge more. But like I think for me, like I wouldn't say my aim, but a nice like business for me is a business that you can be pretty hands off on certain parts of it, and the marketing has been that, and that's why passive marketing is really important. What we've spoken about is a lot of active, like you need to dedicate time to this, but I've got by for the last few years on just being nice to photographers and posting your wedding film on Instagram.
But again, we are in a service based industry as photographers and filmmakers. We and the service we provide are our value. We're not selling a product where I always use this example. I have nothing against cake makers. You could be a nasty person and make amazing cakes. And if you can hide behind good customer service, as long as you can get people's money off them, you give them a banging cake on their day that you won't even see them on the day of their wedding, you're fine. But for us, people need to go, do you know what? I can stomach having that guy around me on one of the most, and my family for one of the most nervous and days of my life for 12 hours without me wanting to throttle him or run away from him. That is huge, as well as the work that you make. So we need to show much more of ourselves than a product-based industry does. But because of that, I only want to shoot 30 weddings a year. So I only need to generate enough inquiries to book 30 weddings that aren't on the same day. Where if you're a product industry, surely you need as many leads as you can to sell as much of that product as you can, because the more you sell, the more you make. So it's identifying.
So you need more active marketing for that.
It's marketing to the business that you're in as well.
But I mean, we've barely touched the surface. But I
That's
feel
mad.
like that's a good place to
yeah.
start with. Things to do over the winter is that like website, get an Instagram little plan together, start doing little stories and things like that. Stories are huge. Like something which I sort of on and off focus on. I was doing so well with stories until July, and then I had the 10 weddings in July, and like after that I just got exhausted with it.
I think as well, some of it is muscle memory. Like for me, if I was at 10 weddings, to find time, even if you're at dinner, most of the time my stories at weddings happen at dinner because I forget during the day.
Yeah.
But just to pull your phone out your pocket and go, oh look, I'm here today.
But it's for that to click in your brain. You need to start getting into that. Yeah.
But it's a muscle memory.
Association.
The same way that you now, because you've been conditioned to since you were a child, you remember to brush your teeth every morning. You don't forget to brush your teeth.
Yeah.
If you're at a wedding,
to do a story
you remember. So even if you have it written on the back of your camera on a sticky note, like do a damn story. Like I work.
But then for me, I'm like, what am I going to say? Oh, I'm at this lovely wedding at this lovely venue. It just would sound like every other wedding to do you know what I mean? Like,
but you're putting your face in front of them.
Yeah.
That's
just me being really
like, I think if you've listened to this hour and 20 minutes, it's just a prompt. Get yourself on camera, do the challenge. Even say that jump on a story, say that you've listened to this podcast and we've told you to do it.
Yeah.
So get yourself out your comfort zone, out your head, talk to yourself. Talk to camera, get in front of people, and just start. All that like website update that you think you haven't done or you haven't got enough work for, you have. And so just do something. Like you can't moan that you haven't got enough inquiries.
People invest in people.
You've not got work if you're not marketing yourself.
Yeah. You're a person with a good business behind you. People want to see you first, then your business. At least if you're booking people like we're booking. Yeah. Like there are, again, people that want to book numbers and are not too worried about what couples they're booking. In which case, this advice might be a bit different.
But also, I don't want to cast any. I think I'm okay at my job, but there's much better wedding photographers out there than me. But they probably don't market as well, so they're not as seen. Or there's also people out there that are probably a lot worse wedding photographers than me. They're a damn sight busier than I am. Because they're good at convincing people to book them because they're good at marketing.
Not necessarily the quality of your work.
It can be really easy to sit there scrolling Instagram, going, "This works terrible compared to mine," but they're charging £500 more than me, and they're saying they're fully booked for next year already. And it's like, because you're looking at them on Instagram and they've marketed to you. Yeah. Like, you can sit at home and go, well, I haven't got any work. And it's like, then make people find you.
Yeah.
And it sounds harsh, but it's true. And I think in this day and age, it's never been easier. There have never been more resources out there to market yourself without spending that much money than there are now.
Yeah,
you don't have to afford a big ad in the Yellow Pages now,
or pay hundreds of pounds for a Google ad. You literally, if you post stuff on Instagram pretty consistently, you'll get followers and stuff.
If you have a phone in your pocket and a will to succeed, you will. Yeah, and I think that's the bombshell.
That's a good way to round it up. I like that.
Everybody carries a phone in their pocket. Like, get it out, use it, talk to it, and sell yourself. Yeah,
perfect. Oh, let's round it up. Yeah. I think I've just had a thought in my head that I think the next episode will be the last one before Christmas. So
we're going to do a
Christmas jumper
episode. Yeah. So then we're going to change scenery again. We're going to go on from my house to here, and then we're going to make the biggest winter wonderland. I think that's what I'm going to go all out.
Okay.
We get a tree, we get jumpers, we're going to get mulled wine.
Yeah, little fireplace.
Yes, one of those fake Netflix fires. We can put a screen up with one of them on.
Yeah.
It's happening, people. So when we tune in for the next one. Yeah, just be ready.
Big promises. All right, see you next time, guys.